I recently did a presentation to an online conference in Kazakhstan on generative AI assessment and the future of jobs and careers. Um, Unfortunately, the presentation that I showed, was a Russian translation, so I haven't got a recording. But I thought, well, I'll record these slides again because there's some quite interesting things. One thing I quite liked is they gave me the topic. They wanted me to talk about assessment and AI, and they also wanted me to talk about careers and AI. And I thought, well, that's going to be a strange old mix to have. But the more I went into developing the presentation, it sort of made a lot of sense that these things are mixed up. Assessment and AI is not separated from the future of jobs and not separated from careers. Anyway, just something about these images. This picture that you can see here is the classification cupboard, and it comes from a website called Better Images of AI. And I'm a bit hung up on this. I hate these images we see endlessly in newspapers and magazine articles where they have sort of a picture of a robot brain to represent AI, which I think is highly inaccurate. AI is a complex machine, but it's not a robot and it's not a humanoid. Anyway, that's the preamble. Let's get going. What is generative AI? If you probably anyone listening to this knows what generative AI is by now, but just in case, it's artificial intelligence. This is the classic definition, although there's some new ones coming out. Artificial intelligence capable of generating text, images, or other data using generative models, often in response to prompts. Generative AI models learn the patterns and structures of their input training data and then generate new data that has similar characteristics. We might discuss that a little later on. And that's the image, yes. How do we see AI? Humanoid robots, glowing brains, outstretched robot hands, blue backgrounds, and the Terminator. These stereotypes are not just overworked, they can be surprisingly unhelpful. Now let's look at this question of assessment. I think that the whole issue of assessment is being debated more widely now, and this is really good. But why assessment? Well, I did a Google search on why people do assessment, and this was some of the things that came up. Diagnosis was pretty good. Give student feedbacks, that's pretty good. Identify particular learning needs. Diagnose learning disabilities. Determine eligibility for specialised education services. Or to determine competence for employment or career. Or to determine school leader and or teachers' grades and pay rates. So look, assessment can fulfill many different purposes. But if we're talking about AI and assessment, I think we have to think out why we're doing it and what we want out of it in the first place. And of course, you get certainly on higher education sites all the time when you talk about why you're doing assessment. There's academia and assessment is integrity. Academic integrity and related concepts such as originality, authenticity, truth and accountability. And I mean, a lot of political leaders have been getting into trouble lately because their doctorates are supposed to be not entirely original. But we've got a lot of reasons coming on there. Now, these are, I think, some key things about assessment. We can have three different types of assessment. Diagnostic, trying to find things out. Summative, which is what you get at the end of your exams, saying over the last 3 or 4 years this person has learnt this stuff. Or formative, which is to give learners feedback on how their learning is going. And of course we've got overlying this, these two factors of validity and reliability. Now here's quite a slide I quite like. It's from the higher education Authorities National Forum, I think it's one from the United States. But it shows a summative assessment of learning, and then we've got assessment for learning, that's formative assessment, but assessment as learning, and that's an interesting thing. The assessment itself is a process of learning. And then we've got high stakes assessment. My future career depends on this. Well, that's the assessment of learning end, yeah? And then we've got low stakes learning, where students can request feedback based on their self-monitoring. Now, what's happened with AI? A new technology in education? Well, the word is there on the left, panic. Assessment will never be the same again. Ban it, it's a terrible thing. But of course we've done that with all kinds of technology in the past. There we've got a slide rule, which some of you may remember, but I bet most of you don't. I'll show you another picture of slide rules later, which is quite interesting. And then we've got, of course, the calculator. My God, I did first year statistics and we had one calculator and they were very worried about its use. But books, when we do assessment, why can't you use books? Where else in the world don't you have books to use when you're trying to do something? And then, of course, we've got computers and AI. So technology, education always tends to panic a bit when new technology comes in. But as it settles in, I think in general, education is very good at adapting. How many years it takes, another thing. So when we're talking about this new technology coming to assessment, we need assessment strategies. Now, just as AI is not new, and remember that, all the fuss is about generative AI, but AI has been around for a long time. So is digital assessment. And this predates the release of ChatGPT. It's a slide from Patrick Craven from City Guilds in London, who said since the late 1990s, they now deliver, City Guilds delivers 1.5 million tests a year to over 3K centres in UK, Africa, Asia and Europe. 65 tests are marked online per month. 65,000 tests are marked online per month. 750k per year. And they're doing 200 markers using online. And that's AI research, pre-generative AI. I mean, of course, the difference here is that AI or automated assessment processes have tended in the past to be multiple choice, hotspot, drag and drop, interactive. But then as you went to a higher level, or I'd say is it higher level, to e-portfolio type solutions, competence-based solutions, then you're talking about explanatory paragraphs, creative essays, etc., which required human marking. Of course, now we're seeing with AI, generative AI, those continuums on the bottom are probably changing. And another slide about digital, once more from Patrick Craven, about digital assessment strategies. Pointing out really that similar assessment methodologies and skill sets can be used to address judgment interventions at any point in the learning cycle. And Patrick says the key difference in applications is often down to how you play back the outcomes to the learner or other stakeholders. The other stakeholders is an interesting point here. Now look, one thing people have been pointing out, and as I said before, I think that the panic over AI and assessment is leading us to think again about assessment, and I think that's long overdue. And long overdue too is the thing is a look at what authentic assessment is. And this is Shane Sutherland from PebblePad, who runs the PebblePad e-portfolio. Says it relates to what students' experience in the real world. Instead of testing students' proficiency in completing tests, authentic assessment methods are designed to assess knowledge and test how students apply that knowledge in real-life situations. A purposeful application of knowledge in practice is increasingly more important than knowledge recall. Now look, in vocational education and training, we've tended to have, to varying degrees in different countries, always to have had authentic assessment. Competence-based, related to real-world tasks, combines knowledge and practice, uses the tools of the job, and increasingly often uses photographic evidence as evidence of competence, which is interesting again. So, designing assessments. Can't quite see where I got this one from. Oh, I think it was EduCause. It was an EduCause presentation in November of 2023. And I like this slide very much, because not only do they talk about academic integrity on assessment and security, but they point out that sound pedagogy is very important, and that includes multiple varied opportunities to demonstrate, not learning but learning. And I love this last one, wellness, because I've never seen that anywhere else. Making choices to lead optimal well-being for students and instructors, and I have never seen us do that, and I would guess that for many students, wellness is the last word that they would associate with exams or assessment. And yes, we talked about authentic assessment, but I also think about embedding assessment in the learning process. This comes from the USA Department of Education, Office of Educational Technology in 2017. And I think is good. Adapting to learner ability and knowledge, which is far for 2017, it was pretty new, I think. They talk about automatic grading, but measuring complex competencies, I think that's good. And of course, with AI and in general, we have the ability or the capability to have new assessment formats. We can use enhanced graphics, gaming, virtual simulations, personalised and adaptive learning with assessment with immediate feedback and tailored learning. We can use assessment tasks based on students' abilities and performance levels. And for the last couple of years, I've been trying to learn Spanish using Duolingo, and of course Duolingo has built-in assessment as learning, and Duolingo as well varies it. If I make a complete hash of some exercises, which does happen sometimes, unfortunately, they start asking me easier questions, and if I'm getting everything right, it suddenly hypes up the level of the tasks they are giving me based on my ability and performance. And it's perfectly, once more, this is how, I've forgotten where, I think it is a US university, has introduced AI assessment into different kinds of different facets or lessons from learning, and using a lot of imagination. And I think that imagination in designing assessment is a key issue. Forget all the assessment you did at school. Imagine how we can do it. Imagine new ways of doing it. And then of course there's the question of what are we assessing? Well, we've got complex and higher order learning outcomes. I love this picture, such as problem solving skills and even non-cognitive abilities like self-discipline, motivation, persistence, teamwork. analytical thinking, creativity, adaptability, leadership, and resilience. And these are the things that people are saying may constitute digital or AI literacy. We're looking at new higher order learning outcomes rather than simple regurgitation of facts. And of course, we can use technology to demonstrate learning or to let others demonstrate learning in a variety of different ways, including through artifacts, through interaction, and through feedback. Of course, one place we have been using AI for the last 10 or so years, or longer than that, is in learning analytics, which is the measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of data about learning in their context. And one of the problems is the classic definition of learning analytics. I'm not so sure the purpose of understanding, optimizing learning in the environments in which it occurs has always been to the forefront in the use of learning analytics. Certainly in the UK, I'd suggest that the purpose of using learning analytics has been to ensure student retention, especially in the first few months of any term, which is when the grant is derived from, the grants to funds to universities. Anyway, Rose Luckin from London, Professor of AI in London, has suggested one key learning task for teachers and trainers is to identify new sources of data for use in assessment. She's very keen to include emotional data from sensors. I recognise the potential of it, but I would have some ethical worries about using emotional data. I would need persuading, but it's interesting. And here, of course, we're coming back to that question of AI literacy. There's various definitions floating around. I especially like the one from the bottom one too. I can't pronounce the names, I'm sorry to them. I think it's a very good publication they've got. Is having the essential abilities that people need to live, learn and work in our digital world through AI-driven technologies. Of course, what that implies is that we all need AI literacy, and we all probably need educational support in developing that AI literacy, which in their definition is people need knowledge and understanding of AI, the use and application of AI, the evaluation and creation of AI ethics, and essential AI skills, which can be both technical and non-technical. Now, of course, this presentation has been developed as part of the AI Pioneers project, which is a large-scale Erasmus Plus project. And we focus very much on the skills and competencies of teachers and trainers in vocational and adult education to use AI as part of the teaching and learning process. And here you can see on the left some of the skills and competencies that we have suggested should be integrated into the DigComp Edu framework for teachers and trainers. And we produced a supplement, and if you go to the AI Pioneers website, you can download this document, which contains all the details, quite a lot of details of what we developed. And the DigComp Edu framework has, of course, different levels, 6 different levels. I've just looked at the expert level here. We define stuff for all the levels. The expert B2, where we're saying a teacher or a trainer might need to expertly navigate a variety of AI tools for advanced professional purposes, including predictive analytics, might need to lead professional development sessions or workshops in AI for colleagues, and innovatively uses AI for personal and organisational growth, contributing to the wider community. But that's for an expert B2 level. The competencies obviously need to change for other levels within that framework. Now, this is about competences and skills, isn't it? And what I'd suggest is going on at the moment is we have a turn to skills, assessing job candidates based on their skills rather than on college degrees or others. And I read an article in the New York Times this week where they were saying that increasingly in the United States, people are thinking about doing apprenticeship programs and technical programs rather than going to university as part of this real move to skills. But that move to skills means we're also putting candidates for jobs through bespoke strengths-based assessment designed to explore how individuals would act in work-based scenarios. So you're back once more to that what I was talking about earlier about authentic assessment. So we're looking at capabilities, a shift towards behavioural competence components, attitudes, motives, personality traits, ranging from creative to social capabilities. And that's very much tied in to the future of jobs, I think. And the recent survey found, IPPR from London, found that individuals they interviewed, many individuals were worried about the impact that Gen AI could have on their careers. 54% of the people they interviewed. And of course there's a big debate on how exposed some jobs may be to generative AI. There's no general agreement of them, but the report, interestingly from IPPR, identifies roles we often associate and thought were safe, like teachers and psychologists, as being the most exposed to AI technology. I was digging this, I've actually added this since my original presentation, this slide, but I think this comes from Reddit. I found it in Reddit. In 1952, IBM advertisement where they're saying that, well, there's many things to think about this. Firstly, that's a slide rule. I said I'd come to that. Slide rules in practice. All engineers had slide rules. But they're saying that one of their new IBM calculators, they didn't call them computers here, I think they called them calculators, could replace, would give them, no, they didn't say replace, it was said it would give them 150 extra engineers. Interesting to note, mind, every engineer here is white and every engineer here is male. So that was for IBM the definition of an engineer in 1952. Now the big debate, will AI augment jobs or destroy them? This is the jury is out on this question. Well, IPPR says that there's a range of scenarios demonstrating a job apocalypse is not inevitable. On the contrary, they say huge wage and GDP gains are also possible. An alternative future is possible if government, employers and unions act to preserve and help create new automation-safe jobs. But of course, the worst scenario, full displacement, 7.9, this is for UK, million job losses, no GPT gains. Best scenario, full augmentation, all jobs at risk are augmented to AI. So we've got a bit of a debate going. But I imagine if you're at school now or you're at university now thinking about your career, This is not a stable situation, not a very good situation to be in. So how do we communicate the changes impacting on the world of work and support young people to reflect on what this might mean for them? And I think that's a big issue. I'd very much like this image, which is of human AI collaboration. So AI is also being used in career development for all kinds of different purposes. And Danny Mertz, who is a career professional from Coventry, says he uses for admin, workshop plans, mega prompts, asking questions, rehearsing interviews, subject plans, etc. But also says human professional guidance personnel are the human in the loop. And there's a slide once more, which is from Danny about prompting. And he has this idea of clear, contextualize, limit, elaborate, assume, redirect. I mean, the point here is these are all new competencies which teachers, trainers, career professionals need to have, working together with AI for augmentation in their role. But no presentation will be complete without talking about ethics. What should we be concerned about? Bias, normativity, transparency, hallucinations, and don't forget that despite throwing millions at it, the big AI companies have failed to stop the hallucinations. They're all pretty bad. OpenAI hallucinates, the Google AI hallucinates, Claude hallucinates, and I dare say when I get round to trying out the new Apple AI, which came out 2 days ago, it will hallucinate as well. So we have a lot of problems, and one of the big problems I think is hype. I'll be happy when it calms down a little more. I think we are moving into a slight post-hype phase, I hope. And I very much worry for education about commercialization and access to large language models. I do think we need our own large language models. To rely on OpenAI, I don't think is a bright idea. And of course we need ethical frameworks for transparency, justice and fairness, non-malfeasance, I never say that word, responsibility and privacy. One of the best things I've read about this is Senecac 2024, Ethical Principles in International AI in Education. Diversity and equity, security and safety, sustainability, etc. I recommend reading that. I realise I put a lot of references in this presentation. I'm going to publish this today, I hope, but I will work over the weekend on another list, another slide, giving you access to all the references. Thank you for listening. If you're not already a member of the AI Pioneers Network, I'd urge you to join. It's a network running in LinkedIn. There's the address there. All these slides are Creative Commons. You're completely free to reuse them. I think that's all I'm going to say. I'll be back with another presentation, I guess, in about 4 weeks for you. Thank you.